Access to Democracy is made possible by donations from the following organizations. Thomson Reuters, a global company with expertise and insight to unravel complex situations in the areas of law, tax, compliance, government, and media. Their worldwide network of journalists and editors keep customers up to speed on relevant global events. Thomson Reuters, the answer company. The division championship Minnesota Twins are looking to go all the way to the World Series in 2024. Bolstered by inspirational shortstop Carlos Correa, a healthy Brian Buxton, and rookie phenom Royce Lewis, plus a pitching staff led by Pablo Lopez and an outstanding bullpen featuring Johan Duran, the Twins are the best bargain in the major leagues, and Target Field is the best venue in baseball. Sheridan Dulas & Kins, PA, a family and criminal defense law firm, has been serving clients in Dakota County and throughout Minnesota for over 40 years. Ranked a Tier 1 Best Law Firm by U.S. News & World Report every year since 2009, Sheridan Dulas & Kins are here to help you in your most difficult life circumstances. Established in 2007, 45th Parallel Spirits was among the first 50 micro-distilleries in the United States. Based in New Richmond, Wisconsin, all aspects of production occur at our facility. If you're interested in visiting and learning more about the 45th Parallel Distillery, please check our website and plan a visit to tour our facility and taste our spirits. Truestone Financial, with locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin, has proudly served its members since 1939. Truestone engages, educates, and supports its members to ensure they have the tools to empower their financial well-being. Truestone Financial, your neighborhood credit union. Learn more at truestone.org.
Hello and welcome to Access to Democracy. I'm your host, Steve Francisco. It's a pleasure to welcome to our studio today the Sheriff of Dakota County, Minnesota's third largest county, Sheriff Joe Leko. Welcome to Access to Democracy.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for asking me to be here.
So I understand, Joe, you've had a rather unique career before you became sheriff. You have actually spent pretty much your entire career in law enforcement working in the very office that you now lead.
I did.
Correct?
Yeah, I'm proud to say that. It's been going on just about completing my 28th year. So in 1997, yes, I'm a 1900s baby. So way back then, I started as a licensed deputy with the sheriff's office and kind of worked my way through, and here I am today in a blink of an eye, it seems like.
And some of the positions you held, tell us about some of those. I see you were you started patrol, and then you were an SRO, school resource officer, but you also worked with as a drug and gang investigator, patrol supervisor.
Yes, yeah, I worked my way through. I tried to, the wonderful thing about the sheriff's office, there's so many different opportunities and things to do. So patrol is usually the core duties and the core job you do. I started as a court security, but then got into being a school resource officer at Dakota County Technical College for a couple years, and then did some boat and water patrol, and then eventually got into some investigations with the drug and gangs, and then got promoted and kind of worked in those same areas along the way as a supervisor too. So I got to see that lens.
And so doing all that too, and we should say that your last position before you ran and were elected sheriff, you were the chief deputy sheriff for Dakota County.
I was.
That for how long?
I did 8 years under retired Sheriff Tim Leslie.
Is that an unusual career track for a county sheriff to have spent pretty much their entire career in one agency?
I think so. I think I was the first one within Dakota County, at least I can say, since Sheriff Rod Boyd did that back in the 1970s. So with that said, I was able to gain that experience within the office. I was given many of opportunities from the prior sheriffs. Don Gunmanson hired me. I went through Don Gunmanson for many years, and Dave Bellows, and then Tim Leslie. So they exposed me to a lot of increasing responsibilities along the way to kind of sharpen my skills. So, but it is rather unique. So I have a lot of different views from the office, and I've seen the immense changes that we've gone through as well. So I know where we've been, and I know where we are, and I know where we want to be. So it provides that different, unique perspective. I've seen a lot of people come and go.
It just seems when I look at your resume, I can't imagine a resume that would better prepare you to lead the department because you've seen every aspect of its work.
Absolutely, and I've also have the advantage or I guess privilege of living in Dakota County my entire life. So I know the community. It's not like
Where'd you grow up at?
I grew up in West St. Paul, Minnesota. So Dakota County. I went to Brady High School. That used to be alive back in 1989 when I graduated. I think it closed in '91. It's now St. Croix Lutheran High School, but I grew up a stone's throw away from there. So I know the community, and that's why it's personal to me. And I now live in Evergrove Heights, and I've lived in Burnsville and Farmington, so I've kind of bounced around a little bit, but stayed all within Dakota County my entire life.
That's really great. So give our viewers an idea, if you would, Sheriff, how big is the Sheriff's Office? How many sworn deputies do you have? How many support staff do you have?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have roughly 215 employees in the Sheriff's Office. Of those 215, we have 84 licensed staff. Roughly 80 correctional staff that are assigned to our jail, and the responsibilities in there, and the balance are support staff that help out at our windows, whether it's gun permits or records or support in our jail for administrative tasks in there.
And give us an idea, if you would, how big is the Sheriff's Office budget?
Our budget is roughly, I believe it's around $28 million right now. It increases every year, obviously, with personnel costs. That's the majority of our budget is to pay for our personnel. It's roughly 10% of the Dakota County's budget, underneath the commissioners and the county manager.
Right,
So,
which your budget every year is submitted, reviewed, and approved by the county board.
it is,
Yeah.
right.
So,
It is.
How many, your office is divided into some various divisions. I understand you have 3 different divisions within the Sheriff's Office: civil, investigations, and patrol. Tell us about those different divisions, what they do. Give us a little better idea.
Yes, we have 3 divisions. One's operations, which that's what patrol, investigations, civil falls under. We have detention services, which we can talk about too as well, and then we have an administrative division. But underneath operations, that's probably the most visible part of our office. That's the patrol, which we have, I believe, 30-ish deputies out there, including supervisors that patrol the rural part of Dakota County. So those agencies, or those areas that do not have a police department, a city police department dedicated to them, we patrol those areas, a population of roughly 23,000. And then we have our investigative team, which is roughly 6 to 8 investigators that do follow up to calls within our patrol area, but we also assist the cities. Most recently, the other day, unfortunately, we had a homicide in Burnsville, and our investigative team assisted Burnsville by taking that case as well. So then we have a civil division within there too that does a lot of the administrative serving of papers, whether it's an order for protections or forfeitures of homes, whatever it might be.
Right.
They have to be physically served by these court orders. We have 3 staff that go out and do that, and they have a supervisor over them as well, and they're out throughout the entire county.
So you also provide detention services, which includes things like, I understand, court security, jail, and transport. Could you say a little bit more about those too?
Yes, so those are mandated services through the state statutes. That's the sheriff shall have a place at jail to detain those that are awaiting court or serving time that are on the state level that don't go to prison. So that's half of our operation basically is our jail. And that falls under detention services. As I mentioned, we have roughly 80 correctional deputies there. And as far as the courts, that's also mandated by state statute that we shall provide the security for our courtrooms. We have them in Hastings, Apple Valley at our Western Service Center, and Northern Service Center as well. We have courtrooms up there that we have deputies assigned, licensed deputies assigned there. And then also tied in with the jail is the transportation of the inmates to and from. So
to their court appearances?
Yes, or if Hennepin County
moving people
arrests
between facilities?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If somebody up in northern Minnesota County arrests someone on a Dakota County warrant, we go up and take custody of that individual at that facility or that county and bring them back to our jail to be seen in front of a judge.
And are you ever called upon, I would imagine you would be, occasionally called to go out of state, perhaps to Wisconsin or to another state where you have an extradition proceeding that results in a prisoner being sent to Dakota County?
Absolutely. That's more regular than one would think and more than I actually realized until I got into the chief deputy job and got to know a little bit more of all the things that are going on in our office. But we have extradition trips quite often, actually. Our county attorney's office might want somebody that's on a pretty serious charge. Those are usually serious charges.
Felonies.
Yes, felonies that we have to send a transport deputy or two, usually two at a time, to go out of state. Sometimes it's a drive, sometimes it's a plane ride.
What's the farthest you've had to go?
Well, Florida, Texas, all over actually.
Yeah.
All over the United States, I would say, are in play.
So how does our county compare? You hear a lot in the news these days, people talking about crime, and it seems there's a lot of misunderstanding about what some of the actual trends are in crime. How does Dakota County compare to other Minnesota counties and to national averages in terms of serious crimes?
Yeah, that's a good question, Steve. Being that we're, Dakota County's the third largest, as you mentioned. We're very close to the metro. There's a lot of population. What comes with population and retail and just traffic coming through, crime comes, right? But we're seeing pockets of different things. What you might see in Hennepin County, the stolen vehicles and things like that, or juvenile gangs, we don't see that as much in Dakota County at all. But as far as just overall crime rates, I think we're on the lower end, but it's pretty steady. It's been steady lately. I don't want to say it's getting better, but it's all a result of pressure from law enforcement side, the consequences, and the opportunities as well. So there are crimes that are occurring, but as far as on the national level, it's a very safe county overall. Right. It really is. We have great police departments and prosecutors and all the stakeholders, community members that see something, say something, give us a call, and so it's a very safe community.
So
I believe.
I would imagine too that things such as National Night Out, people who live in communities, townhome communities, which we have a lot of here in Eagan, I live in one, and even just single family residential communities, the importance of getting to know your neighbors and looking out for each other helps reduce the crime rate too, right? Absolutely,
because we as law enforcement can't be everywhere, and us as community members, neighbors, know what doesn't fit in our neighborhood, or that seems strange, or that's a strange car, or that one's coming and going, whatever it might be, right? We need people to be able to see those things and call us when they see those things, or communicate with neighbors so they know what's going on, what's strange.
Right. And some interesting technology that's now available to people that they may not think about, they're doorbell cams, which are relatively inexpensive to purchase and install.
Yeah.
The Sheriff's Department and other police departments, if a crime does occur, can make use of the video that's recorded on those, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, it provides not only the homeowners with some security to know when their package is being delivered, and that's another thing. You get into the Christmas season, and we get those type of things where people are getting their packages stolen. But if you happen to have a Ring camera and there's a burglary down the street, and we have no suspects or idea who may have done it, but you have a Ring camera, we might knock on your door and ask you to check that to see if you have a description of a car or a person that we might have caught on that camera. And the technology helps us break these cases.
Question that occurs to me, if a person chose not to provide it voluntarily, can you get a court order requiring them to provide it? Or
Boy,
no?
not really. That's not usually
really?
the tactic.
It's
your property. Yeah.
Right. And most people voluntarily
They would.
provide
We ask.
it.
We don't make them provide that. And I think Apple Valley Police Department has gone even further and requested those that have Ring cameras, it's voluntary, but you can provide that. Yes, I have a Ring camera at 123 Main Street. I have a Ring camera, so they have an idea where the Ring cameras are around. That's voluntary. So if something does happen in those areas, they know exactly what house to go to rather than trying to find a needle in a haystack who has them. So it is voluntary. We will not come and we don't have access to your video captures out there. We usually ask for permission.
Right. So what is generally the county seems to be a pretty safe place to live compared to other counties in Minnesota and probably around the country, I would guess too, but it's thanks to these types of efforts and proactive Sheriff's Department. What other steps do you take in terms of crime prevention?
I think a lot of it is just educating what's going on out there, and that's part of this show too, or on our web pages. We try to educate that, scams are happening, phone calls, emails, and that's a whole different topic, but we want to educate our community members of what's happening and what to be on the lookout for, because you might not know, right? Whether it's how fentanyl is being, infiltrated into our communities. What can you do to prevent that? What do I look for in my kid's bedroom? How do I have that talk with them? But it's making everybody aware of what's actually happening and how you can prevent becoming a victim of some of those crimes.
I'm glad you brought up the fentanyl and opioids issue, because it's been an issue that has affected literally the entire country and every one of the 87 counties in the state of Minnesota, including Dakota County. Say a little bit more about that. What are we seeing in terms of where these drugs, where are they coming from, and who is bringing them in here?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, Steve, I had quite a few years on the drug task force. I worked there, and back then they had meth labs. That was the thing, meth labs. I'd never imagined what fentanyl was. This has come on very quickly and strong over the last 5 to 8 years, but specifically has really peaked in the last handful of years. So we're seeing more and more of it. It's coming from the southwest border, from Mexico into the United States. Some of the origins go back to China with the precursors and things, but the majority of it is coming here as far as the pills are being made in Mexico and coming up here. We are hearing that there are some, pill manufacturers within the United States now as well, where they might be just bringing the ingredients in, but it's typically coming through our border, through all different types of means. And sometimes it even comes through our airports.
I was going to ask you about that. Is it coming in through MSP? Is it coming up I-35, or all of the above?
All the above.
Any way that somebody can bring it in?
All the above. And the cartels are the driving force behind this, and they're very sophisticated. And we might be able to shut down one avenue that they're bringing it in, and they'll be creative and bring it in another way. There was a story out there recently that our drug task force was involved in, as far as intercepting a large amount of drugs coming through that were hidden in stuffed animals. So they might come through that way. They might be on a person, or they might be in some manufacturing equipment. But they'll run test runs through the border to see if it gets through. And then if it does, then they'll continue that operation until it gets stopped. But it does then just get distributed throughout the United States. It comes to the major cities. We are one of those major cities where it could be a hub. So it might come to, Egan, for that matter, as a hub, and then it gets distributed out through the suppliers throughout the metro area as well. So we are a focal point. We're in a high intensity drug trafficking area as identified by the national government as far as their assessment of our threats, just with all the roadways and congestion
and the population.
That's
where people are living.
Supply, demand.
Yeah.
So we are on high alert. With that said, we made some good strides. One life is way too many, but we are starting to see the overdoses start to level off. But with that said, we have a lot of work to do on the enforcement side, education side, and policy
your
side.
officers, when they respond to calls, they're equipped with, is it Narcan, the antidote for dealing with this? Yeah. Sadly, you have to carry that as part of the equipment, too, to help save lives, right?
Absolutely. Narcan, naloxone, as it's known.
Right.
So we have it all within our patrol response. We have it in our jail. I know that the schools are now even equipped with that. And we have saved lives, but we also don't want that to be the message that that's the safety net for people to use. I'm going to use meth, or I'm going to use fentanyl. As long as you're next to me, you can provide that dose and you'll save me. It only saves people 1 out of 5, or 1 out of 5 die, I should say.
Oh, wow.
In those
20%.
cases, it's not depending on the potency. There's some substances out there, mixtures that might not work with naloxone. So we don't want people to be comfortable with that. We're good. So we need to educate more on that.
And this is why a drug such as fentanyl is so dangerous, because we're talking about a very small amount that can be very lethal.
Absolutely.
Correct?
The tip of a pencil, is all it needs to be inside of a small pill. And we need to educate people what those look like. It looks just no different than if you went to Walmart or Walgreens and got your prescription pill from your doctor, and it looks like a OxyContin pill. These pills that have fentanyl in them look exactly like that. They're identical to those. You wouldn't know if it came from a prescription pill bottle or off the street, right? And so you don't know if they have fentanyl in them. But the amount of fentanyl is not carefully measured in each one of those. You could have more than you might even know there's some in there as you take it. And it can kill you thinking you're taking actually OxyContin and it's got fentanyl in it because you bought it off the street or it came from the street. It's extremely, extremely dangerous and potent.
Right, which is why it's attracted so much attention from
so sad.
Law enforcement and legislators and everybody else who's trying to get a handle on this and try to stop it.
And it's impacting, there's that perception, that stereotype out there that these are drug users. These are people that are constantly addicted and drug using, and they're shooting it up in their arms and things. No, these are high school kids that had a back injury in a football game, and they got prescribed Vicodin for that pain, and the prescription is no longer renewed, and they're looking for things in the medicine cabinet or a buddy or something that might have access to it, and they get it not knowing it came from the street, and it's got fentanyl in it, and it's killing them. These are true stories, and there's parents that are left with childless now because of these pills that are being circulated on our streets.
Horrible. And I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would assume with these drugs, fentanyl in particular, it's almost always associated with gang activity, correct? It's gangs that are bringing this into our communities?
Yes, cartels.
Cartels.
Which are gangs, right?
Which are gangs,
yeah,
right.
they're
you don't see that many freelance drug dealers bringing fentanyl in, or do you?
No, it's usually under some sort of organization. Yeah, the fentanyl is coming in through the cartels, and then it gets down to the street level, and you might have lower level dealers that are doing that, but all the money is funneled upward towards the cartels and back down to Mexico.
I want to switch focus for a moment, if I could, Sheriff, and ask you too, what role does the Sheriff's Office play in combating internet crime? We hear increasingly about crimes that are committed on the internet and through social media. This could be everything from bullying online, illegal activities, to something now called sextortion, where people have compromising photographs that are then disseminated, somebody looking for money and a promise not to disseminate something. What role does your office play in the investigation of these types of crimes?
Yes, we investigate those. Unfortunately, we're seeing more and more of that, whether it's the cryptocurrency scams, people looking for money. They're impersonating us as a sheriff's office or a local police department. You have a warrant for your arrest, you miss a court date, you miss a jury duty, you owe us money, go to the cryptocurrency machine and transfer it here, or buy a gift card and tell me what the numbers are. That's not how we operate, but we do investigate that. We have an electronic crimes unit, which is a multi-jurisdictional unit from member agencies within Dakota County. Egan has their own unit as well, but we work with them to share information on these that are coming in as far as the scams, the bullying scams especially. Social media has created an entirely new world of investigation for us and opened up more opportunities for criminals to leverage and take advantage of those most vulnerable. So we do have a unit that follows up on those. Unfortunately, on a lot of the money scams, those originate overseas, and we can run into dead ends really quick. Right. So our biggest power, I think, advantage is to educate our public. If you're getting texts, you're getting emails, you're getting phone calls, do not respond to those giving any personal information. Even vendors or those things that you might be memberships of, or DirecTV. I'm just not throwing that out there as an example, but let's say you have a Verizon or something, and they're saying we need to update your card. No, don't just click that and say, here's my new card number. Call Verizon and ask them.
There's often a telltale sign too that these are fraudulent. If you hover over the email and you see an address from a sender that does not look recognizable, it's probably not legitimate.
Absolutely. Exactly. There's
That's
always
what we do. Every day we get hundreds of emails, and my wife says, don't open that.
Yeah.
Let's look and see who sent it, and if we don't recognize it or something is off about it, don't open it.
Yeah, that's phishing with a P.
Right,
as they call it in the IT world.
P-H-I-S-H-I-N-G,
yes, so that'd be very skeptical and careful about anything that you, and then call us at the sheriff's office or your local police station
if you have
any questions on that and you're suspecting.
And sadly, a lot of the victims of these internet crimes, unfortunately, are our seniors too, who are sometimes vulnerable to these kinds of attacks.
Right, very trusting as they grown up to be, and they wouldn't think that, and I'm not putting everybody in that category, but very trusting of people that, I need to give my credit card. It seems like something I need to do to update my billing because it sounds like that. But we're also seeing younger people getting scammed as well. I mean, 30-year-olds that are going to the cryptocurrency machine and getting money taken out. So it can happen like that. And once that money's transferred, it's very, very difficult to get back. So we have to educate more on that. But we have an electronic crimes team that does that work.
This discussion, Joe, it really raises a good point too, which I wanted to ask you about. How much of your work is actually in close coordination with other local law enforcement agencies, BCA here in the state of Minnesota, and federal authorities, the FBI, ATF, other federal law enforcement agencies? Isn't there a lot of coordination?
Absolutely. I mean, we can't do this alone. We in Dakota County lean heavily on our partners, our city partners. They lean on us. We lean on federal agencies, the state agencies, like you said, the BCA, especially on those, as I mentioned, those crimes that might go overseas, right? Maybe that's something that Homeland Security can take over and look into that investigation, depending on how big that one is. Drug crimes, we work with the DEA. We have an agent, actually a deputy assigned to the DEA. We have one assigned to the U.S. Marshals Service to help work with other local agencies that are assigned to that same task force to catch the worst of the worst out there. So we work closely. The information sharing is important, so we understand the scope of what we're dealing with on the level of public safety, and share that information so we can be most efficient and effective in those enforcement efforts.
And I would guess when you do that type of coordination, it actually helps prosecutors who've got to go out and get convictions.
Absolutely. On the state level and even federal level. We have plenty of examples of drug task force or violent crime arrest, gang activity that reach the level of federal. So we have close partnerships with all those, ATF, FBI, HSI, all the alphabets. We work closely with them.
We've had Kathy Keena, the Dakota County attorney, on before. Of course, she's responsible for prosecuting crimes in the county. I would guess, I'm sure, your office works very closely with prosecutors, too.
Absolutely. I know County Attorney Keena very well. We work with them all the time on these and the agendas of not only just prosecuting individual cases, but also trying to prevent future crimes. We talk about domestic and sexual violence. What could we do to try to educate people and help have them willing to come forward if they're seeing something or feeling something, the resources that are out there. So we try to get better every day. We work closely with the County Attorney's Office on that end as well. And then victim services, if they're a victim of crime, how can we protect them and take care of them as well?
A lot of times people are hesitant to report certain types of crimes because they feel ashamed that they were a victim, particularly with regard to fraud and that. But the only way you're going to get a handle on it is if people do step up.
Absolutely. I mean, we want people to feel, we all have been, given those, the bait out there to be a victim of crime, and we're not judging. There's many people that fall victim to that. And even if you're in a domestic or abusive relationship at home, and you're worried about what that might look like to your family or neighbors and things, we want people to be vulnerable. And we will take care of you, and trust us that we are there for your best interest.
We're down to less than 2 minutes. I want to ask you real quickly, if I could, Joe, tell us about the Dakota County Sheriff's Office Explorers Program and general law enforcement internships.
We're looking to obviously build for tomorrow, and tomorrow is our youth. And we want to expose those that might be interested in public service to some of those entry-level things. Our Explorer unit, which is those that are very young age, even preteen, 13, 14, 15 years old, to come in and get exposed to the law enforcement and building a culture around each other and building up to that, those leadership qualities, expose them to the Sheriff's Office, public safety, and what that career could leave for them. We had a little bit of challenges during COVID because the numbers went down, we couldn't meet and things, but I'm happy to report that our local Explorer units, including the Sheriff's Office in our cities, are starting to build back up. So we're seeing that interest. It's a great thing to do. We have internships available as well as the Sheriff's Office to show you everything that we do. I was fortunate to get exposed to that in 1997, and who knows, maybe someone out there, 28 years from now, you'll be sitting where I'm at.
Real quickly, last question. Any final words of advice to a young person considering a career in law enforcement? What should they do to prepare?
I think it's just get to know people, get exposed to that. Prepare yourself. We look for character. It's not always about how to, handcuff and interview and things like that. It's really just being a very good person, and work on those leadership things and be empathetic and be able to speak, which we always continue to work on. But have those people skills. And expose yourself to as many people as you can.
Very good. Yeah. Sheriff Joe Leko, Dakota County Sheriff, thank you for coming on Access to Democracy, and I want to thank the men and women of the Dakota County Sheriff's Office for all that you do to keep us safe here in Dakota County. Thank you for being our guest on Access to Democracy.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure. Thank you.